The boys' universe is very brutal. It's a world where strength is law, where heroes bleed, die, and fail frequently. But what happens when a man who could defeat Superman himself shows up? Here's what would happen if Batman existed in the boys' universe. The first thing we need to talk about is the origin of Batman. I'm sure everyone is familiar with the murder of Bruce Wayne's parents. Victims of a mugging gone wrong, Martha and Thomas Wayne are killed by low-strung thug Joe Chill. This is what spurs Bruce Wayne to become the hero we know and love. And the first question I pose is, would this happen in the universe of the boys? I say yes, but I think the reasons behind the murder of Martha and Thomas are a little more deliberate. Philanthropy and helping Gotham be a better city play a big part in the Waynes' legacy, and this philanthropy would most likely continue in whatever big city the Waynes find themselves in this other universe. Now let's move over to the boys' side of things. In the boys, superheroes are all managed under one corporation, Vought. Heroes, villains, and the feuds between them are all overseen by Vought. Even the superheroes, or supes as they're called on the show, were created by Vought, using a drug called Compound V. Keep that in mind for later.
Compound V? Oh yeah, and lots of it.
Now, what's a common thread when heroes and villains fight? The destruction of the city they battle. If we were to assume Martha and Thomas were to live in a city similar to Gotham, it would probably be rampant with fake villains put in place by Vought for heroes to stop. And if these fights lead to the destruction of the city they occur in, that leaves space for people like Thomas Wayne, do-gooders trying their best to help the city they live in. So now we've established two things: the degradation of Thomas and Martha Wayne's hometown caused by publicity stunts put in place from Vought, and the Waynes' love for their city. Factor in the frequent public appearances by the Waynes, and I think Vought would take much advantage of this. Public press conferences galore, Thomas Wayne standing next to whatever run-of-the-mill hero they decide to put him with. You would imagine the Waynes to be quick to catch on to what strings Vought has been pulling, and we all know how Vought deals with loose ends.
You've been helping these fucking mud people to go against us. No. Shut your fucking mouth, young lady.
This is all to say that maybe it is still some random 2-bit mugger that takes the life of Bruce Wayne's parents, but behind this random mugging is an order. An order coming all the way down the shady ladder of Vought. An order that would end up forever altering the life of young Bruce Wayne, eventually leading to the one and only Batman. Now that we've established that Bruce Wayne still does indeed become Batman, let's talk how the Dark Knight moves as a hero. First things first, is Batman privy to the shady goings of the Vought company? Absolutely. Even outside of the main DC continuity, he is still the world's greatest detective. Just like his father before him, Bruce Wayne is no stranger to the press. Using his abundance of money and the power of Wayne Enterprises, Bruce Wayne is still very much on the same philanthropy train his father was. The same press conferences, the same hero standing next to him, but this time Bruce Wayne has an eagerness for the truth, a truth that he would quickly find. Controlling off the rail supes is no easy task, and Bruce would be quick to notice the many cracks in Vought's facade, especially after watching how these haywire situations are handled in the boys' show. The world's greatest detective would have no issue discovering Vought's true colors. But would Batman be able to operate the same way he does in the main DC continuity? Most likely not. One of the main focuses of the boys is the difference between human and supe. The main group of characters, Huey, Frenchie, Mother's Milk, or MM, and Butcher are all just guys.
It doesn't matter. You didn't follow orders and it cost some lives.
So look it off. Look it off.
You know what? Fuck this, Butcher. And fuck you. I'm done.
No super speed, extreme strength, or fantastical powers to speak of. Because of this, every move or action they make has to be done discreetly. If any supe gets a whiff of their plans, then Vought would immediately send someone to put an end to them. So let's apply the same pressure to Batman. Now, Batman is no means a public figure in the DC universe, or at least nowhere near the level of someone like Superman or Wonder Woman, but his name still rings bells. People in the streets of Gotham know who he is, and as he gets older in his career, he uses the shadows less and less. That would have to change. With the depravity of Vought made superheroes lurking around every corner, Batman's tactics would have to allow him to move in complete secrecy. The biggest difference in the challenges Batman will find himself facing is the type of enemy he is against. Now by this, I'm not talking about superheroes. Batman is the man with a plan, contingencies for every little thing. That is what he specializes in, making one-on-one fights against the Dark Knight practically impossible. Keyword there being one-on-one. In the boys' universe, Batman is not up against a varying rogue valley. He is up against against a corporation. Every superpowered human in this world, good and bad, works under Vought. This will not be the same as stopping a rampaging Killer Croc or putting an end to the Joker's crazy plot of the day. Now, I know what you may be thinking. Batman has actually faced off against several people at once all the time. Once again, this is different. Supes in The Boys are artificial. Babies are injected with Compound V at birth, are led to believe their powers are natural, and go to work for Vought. Facing off against an assembly line of super soldiers is not the same as beating on a group of Penguin's goons. And because every supe is created through Vought, Batman isn't finding himself a Justice League to help with his battle either. This is practically a solo fight against the Legion of Doom, except a lot trickier. Batman's enemies are faces of the public. He can't just go around bashing them in broad daylight. His methods need to be sneaky and clever. So we take note of the fact that publicity is such an important facet of how Vought runs. Bring in the factor of every supe under Vought's belt being a terrible human behind the scenes, and we have a way Batman can utilize the world's greatest weapon: information. Combine that with Batman's greatest weapon, technical prowess with a little charm, and we have a seriously deadly combo. Gadgets galore is definitely a way you could describe Batman's arsenal, and after taking note of the technical level of the Boys universe, it is nothing compared to what Batman is used to cooking up back home in Gotham. This gives Batman another huge advantage. So techie genius Bruce Wayne gets himself a Batcave, maybe a helpful butler as well, and gets to work. But the gadgets he finds himself building are focused in a different direction that we are used to. Instead of things like batarangs, flashy cars, and suits, Batman pulls his time into stealthier gear. Of course, he will still have his grapple hook. Mobility-related gadgets will be what's most important for Batman in this situation. And while his suit will still have its signature bat look, it will not be nearly as armored, and he could probably afford to lose the cape. I know, controversial. For his transportation, I could see Batman using a motorcycle, something slim, but the Batmobile would have to go. Batman cannot afford to keep any gadgets that make him stand out. Once Vought is aware of who he is and where to find him, it's over for the Caped Crusader. That's why something unnoticeable like a motorcycle is perfect. Think of the bike used in the Matt Reeves Batman movie. For the second half of his kit, I think it would primarily comprised of spy tech, things used to hack cameras and computers, maybe even something as far as EMP devices. Knowing how Bruce Wayne operates, he would probably go all out. Crazy whatchamacallits and diggery-doos every which way. With these begins his war of information. So Bruce Wayne attends a couple of parties, some public, some private. These parties are a perfect spot to gather intelligence. Think of the hero Popclaw, A-Train's girlfriend who has plenty of nasty secrets. Supes like these are abundant at gatherings like those. So Bruce chooses a target, sets out in the dark of night as the Batman, and he begins to collect gossip, rumors, and tall tales. If Batman can get a contingency plan on other characters in DC based on their weakness, gathering some dirt on a bunch of celebrities is a walk in the park. He gets the info, leaks it to the public, and Vought has no choice but to take care of these supes. This will massively dwindle Vought's power with the public, a crucial component for Batman to get vengeance for his parents. With all this said, and I know I made a big point of it, Batman is still 100% fighting people. You can use hacking gadgets all you like, but nothing gets the secrets out like getting your hands dirty. And not every supe is a Homelander level threat. Batman is still peak physical condition for the average human. He definitely does not shy away from the physical aspect of his job. Okay, it is time to address a point I've brought up multiple times now throughout this video: the lack of a Justice League. I still think Batman would mainly be a solo act for most of this whole show, but he would not be completely alone. In The Boys, well, there's the Boys, a group of normal guys trying their best against the giant threat of the Vought Corporation. Their mission is simple: stop Homelander and the people who control him. Well, simple in theory maybe. As far as superpowered help goes, they have Kimiko, a rogue supe unaffiliated with Vought, and Starlight, a hero working against Vought from the inside against the Seven. What is the Seven, you ask? It is the pinnacle of heroism in The Boys, a group of 7 heroes that stand atop everyone else. They rest at the peak of Vought Tower and are the penultimate goal of The Boys. If they can stop them, then Vought is all but finished. So how does Batman play into this? I think that on a mission to uncover some special supe secrets, Batman would run into The Boys. What would be the first instinct though when The Boys see the costume Bruce Wayne? To fight him. It is only natural to assume a man in costume is another supe. This brawl would probably end very quickly though. The Boys are good fighters, but not much can compare to Batman when it comes to martial skill. But would The Boys even agree to work with Batman? You could even ask if Batman would work with the group. The Boys definitely run on a different script than Batman does. Their methods are messy and brutal, usually leaving a trail of blood behind them. I'm sure everyone watching is aware this is not how Batman operates. While he is not afraid to maybe break a bone or two, Batman has roughed up his fair share of criminals. He never goes as far as to take a life. That is Batman's core principle. While most crew members of The Boys are willing to kill if necessary, that is not their first go-to. Except for Butcher. Butcher is like the de facto leader of The Boys. He is vulgar, hot-headed, and tends to ask questions after bodies hit the floor. This is where I think the main issue between Batman and The Boys would occur. If we were to talk about about the objectives of everyone involved, while sure people like Huey or MM seek justice for loved ones, Butcher's goals are a little more twisted than everyone else's. Butcher doesn't want to just end Vought and its reign of supes. He wants to kill them all. His goal is to, at the end of everything, live in a supeless world. This includes the good, not that there's a lot of them, and the bad. And Butcher is one stubborn man. While he may be willing to let off the bloodlust for the sake of a plan, at the end of the day, his goal is to still kill. He says it himself in episode 2 of season 1, "I'm a murderer." This would not go over well with Batman's strictest rule. So this creates a divide between the group. People like Huey and Starlight would most likely gravitate to the cause of someone like the Caped Crusader. At their core, they are just, and while that changes as the show goes on, if they met Batman early in their crusade against Vought, I bet they would be quick to go to his side. You have to remember, the boys really did not have a choice but to side with Butcher. Another leader type like Batman would surely shake up the game. As for Frenchie and MM, people who are a little more loyal to Butcher's side, it really just depends. They've both been hurt by Butcher before, but their style of work and ideals matches a lot more than they match Batman's. Butcher is constantly on thin ice with them, so it would not take a huge mistake for them to switch up. And of course, wherever Frenchie goes, Kimiko follows. A very tough choice for the group, and honestly, Batman could use the help, because in this universe, Batman would not have a Robin, or even a Batgirl. The Bat Fam would be entirely absent in this universe. Not for any crazy reason, it would just not be on Batman's to-do list. He would still have his trusty butler, Alfred. He honestly could not do without, but a group of people dressed up in the same outfit as him going around fighting crime would be way too conspicuous. So his only real choice of alliance is with the boys, the only people trying to put an end to the reign of Vought. Okay, so we've established how Batman's origin differs, the actions he takes as the Dark Knight, and how well he could cooperate with people who share the same goals. All this to say, what would happen if Batman was in the boys? And to put it simply, Batman would win. I know that is a very vague way of saying it, but I feel that this is the outcome most would expect. Now you are asking yourself, how? Batman is not a killer. And if the Joker is anything to go by, he does not do an amazing job at keeping his adversaries in check. This is where Butcher comes in. With every hero Batman takes down publicly, Butcher comes in to take care of privately, without Batman knowing, of course. Butcher is an opportunist, and even if his crew left his side, he would still get his job done, whether it would be riding solo or with a new group to take their place. This is the chain reaction needed to really cause issues for Vought, but it really all comes down to the Seven. They are the true obstacles in the way of anyone accomplishing anything. So where does that take us? In season 3 of the boys awaken Soldier Boy to fight Homelander. Fight fire with fire, they say, but that was not enough. Homelander is the strongest supe after all. Add that to the firepower of the other 6 members of the Seven, and you have a daunting fight ahead of you. One Soldier Boy cannot fight alone. So to counteract this, Butcher and Huey take Compound V. If you recall from earlier in the video, Compound V is the substance powers that allows them to become super. So Butcher and Huey take this drug, and it temporarily gives them the strength to assist Soldier Boy in fighting Homelander. But how does this tie into Batman? One of Batman's biggest traits is that he's powerless after all. Until recently, that is. In 2024, DC started its Absolute line of comics, a reimagining of classic characters that brought them into a much harsher and crueler world, one more akin to the boys. The first comic to release was Absolute Batman. In this series, specifically issue number 11, Batman gets captured by genetically altered Bane. He's brought to a lab where he is then experimented on, and in these experiments he is injected with something called venom. This builds up in his body, and he later exhibits feats such as super strength. Sounds like superpowers to me. So in this new scenario, maybe Batman runs into Huey and Butcher about to take this Compound V. Homelander does not have a glaring weakness like Superman does. Batman cannot use kryptonite to bring him to a level of normal man. So maybe, just maybe, in an attempt of desperation, Batman injects himself with this Compound V. But that entirely depends on one thing: Batman's age. The biggest difference between a young Batman and an old Batman is self-discipline. This is shown in things such as the Absolute Batman comic or even in Matt Reeves' Batman film. Bruce at a younger still commits to his no-kill rule, but he does not know how to control his anger. So I fully believe when faced with a dire situation, a young and desperate Bruce might inject himself with Compound V, especially if he knows its effects are temporary. That would be the last push needed for Bruce to really topple over the Goliath that is Vought. Batman is already an excellent fighter, and martial prowess is something that the boys' characters do do not exhibit much of, so most fights would surely be in Bruce's favor. That leaves Butcher to clean up the scraps left behind, finishing off any already beaten supes that Batman would not. All of that added onto the publicity crisis Vought would be facing from Batman's sneakier activities, and it would be all but over. Of course, I don't think a full stop would be put to the artificial creation of superheroes, but the main source and the greed that infects them would be gone. This is to say, I think Batman's efforts would lead to a world still full of heroes, but one where a company's desperate need for money and ratings wouldn't overshadow every good deed. One where heroes would actually be heroes, and the depravity would lessen. So that's what would happen if Batman was in The Boys. If you enjoyed this video and want to see what if Batman was in the Invincible universe, click the video on the screen.